Hey guys, welcome back. This is Daniel on the newly revamped channel Evolve. Today I have Elena with me, and today we're going to talk about boundaries. Elena, if you don't mind introducing yourself.
Yes, I'm Elena Semenek. I'm a psychologist and a life coach, and I'm the founder of Psychology of Happiness. And I'm grateful to Daniel to be here and to discuss this, one of the most important topics for me, at least.
Yeah, I think it's really important. I think a lot of people they're so busy in their day to day that they don't think about, their relationship, the micro, and like what they can do to not only like enhance their relationship, but themselves within that relationship.
Yes.
So maybe you can go into, I guess, the biggest reason why boundaries are important and, everything else you have to say.
Yeah, so let's talk about what the boundaries are. So what do boundaries mean? And boundaries is your ability to say no, is your ability to protect your own interests, your ability to not allow people to use you, ability to kind of put yourself in this world and be free of expressing yourself, your opinion, your feelings without feeling guilt or shame. This is the problem. A lot of times we can say yes and then we feel guilt, or we can say no and then we feel shame. So boundaries is ability to express yourself and create healthy relationships.
That's awesome. And so, like, what do you think the biggest challenges people face with that? Do you think it is the lack of control, or they're just not thinking about it, or?
I think maybe it's lack of awareness. And of course, everything comes from our childhood. So if our parents did not teach us how to use healthy boundaries, then we don't know how to do it. So that's just the lack of awareness that we don't have healthy boundaries. And unfortunately, if we did not learn it in a childhood, it's very hard for us right now to create healthy relationships. And
Right.
I would like to start talking about 3 types of boundaries so people can at least get aware of what type of boundaries they are using.
Yeah, I wanted to know for myself too. I didn't even know there were different kinds of boundaries. So
Yes. The first type is no boundaries. It means that person does not have any boundaries. That's simple. And if you don't have any boundaries, then your friends, your coworkers, your family members will exploit you. And for example, you will be the one who stays at work at night to finish a report. You will be the one who will be the best friend because you're gonna organize the party. You're gonna take care of everybody. You will be the best son or the best daughter because you are willing to drop everything and come to help his parents. So no boundaries basically mean that in 99% of all situations, you cannot say no. And people will exploit you, unfortunately, because you cannot say no. And manipulative people, narcissists, selfish people, they are looking for people with no boundaries. And they will use their internal radar to find you because this is this is what they want. They want
they
to
just
use
have a sonar going off in their head, and they're just like, "Bam, that's you."
Yes. So the second type of boundaries is opposite, impermeable boundaries. And these are boundaries that are not flexible at all. So people with impermeable boundaries almost never say yes. And usually those people don't have friends. They don't like to work on a team, and they don't like family and friends gatherings. And other people might think that these people are rude and selfish, but unfortunately, those people are lonely because they don't have anybody, and they are not rude. They just have been hurt before. So they cannot trust people. They don't know how to trust another person. And a very good example of a person with impermeable boundaries is shown in the movie Yes Man. And the character Carl, who is played by Jim Carrey, he always say no at the beginning of the movie. And then in the movie, he's learning how to say yes to everything. And unfortunately, when we say yes to everything, it is as bad as when we say no to everything.
Right.
So the question that you might have is like, what other type of boundaries are healthy. And the third type of boundaries, which are your healthy boundaries, is flexible boundaries. And it means that a person can say either yes or no, and it's going to depend on the situation, it's going to depend on the person, and most importantly, it's going to depend on the outcome that you want to receive. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that most people can say, like, of course, I can say yes and no, of course, I have flexible boundaries, but in reality, there are only small percentage of people who have healthy boundaries. And usually people sacrifice their own interest, their time, they sacrifice their wishes, their goals, because they don't want to hurt another person, or maybe they don't want to argue with their spouse, or they don't know what to do when kids gonna cry. So that's why we people, like, every one of us like to sacrifice something just because we don't know how else we can react. And flexible boundaries is the boundaries when you create different boundaries with different people. This is the most important thing probably to understand, that you can have different boundaries with different people. And for example, with your spouse, you should have transparent boundaries, less boundaries, because you want to be vulnerable, you want to trust the person, you want to show your emotions. This way you can create like close, profound, meaningful relationships. But when it comes to kids, for example, and if kids misbehave, then you should switch on to impermeable boundaries. Because with kids, when they misbehave, you should tell them and you should teach them that there is a rules in the house, and they should follow those rules. And this way they will know what do you expect from them. So permeable boundaries are not always bad. Sometimes they can help you, like, to organize, to have structure in your relationships, in your family. And of course, when you talk to your kids about their feelings, their emotions, here you don't need impermeable boundaries. Opposite. You have to be open, you have to talk to them, you have to let them to be vulnerable.
Mm-hmm. So what's your view on transforming and evolving your I guess your behavior when it comes to boundaries? Because a lot of people out there might be saying, I'm definitely transparent, or I'm definitely impermeable. Is there a way where I can, change? Are you stuck? Is it really about like boundary management, or is there something better beyond management?
No, this is, we can definitely learn this. And the first step is to be aware. The first step is to be aware what type of boundaries do you use. Because when we are in a situation, especially with people that we love, our parents, our spouses, our best friends, this is the situation when we allow people to basically break our boundaries and to use us. So the first step is to be aware. The second step, in my opinion, is to understand why, what's algorithm, what's old belief system, or what behavior you are using, and how to break it. And I have webinar about this, about 10 reasons why people cannot say no. And I encourage you to watch this webinar. I don't want to repeat myself, and 10 reasons is a lot. We don't have time right now.
Yeah.
But basically, one of the reasons is a good boy, good girl syndrome. When a person wants to be good and wants to be a nice friend and a nice person. And I explain in my webinar how to basically, how this behavior was developed. So the second step is to understand yourself better, like, why do you do this, this, and this? And when you will be aware of yourself, when you will understand the reasons behind your behavior, then you can learn how to create healthy boundaries. And there are specific phrases, for example, like, with all my respect, I would like to do this, this, and this. So it's the key is to be respectful towards other person and treat yourself with respect.
See, I think a lot of people out there, they might be like me, where I'm very extreme, where I just can't be like, I'm just like no or yes, or like, because I'm very about controlling my world, right? And from what you're saying, it almost sounds like I grew up very transparent, and then I'm trying to be more. I'm trying to be more like, it's almost like I'm going through the motions. Do people do that? Do they kind of like practice and everything, and then they kind of land it flexible over time if they're trying to be healthier? Because I feel like for me, I'm like trying to be more flexible, it seems, and then I pick up when I'm saying to myself, I really shouldn't have done this. Now I'm going to be committing like an hour of my time. And why did I say a yes to this? Or
Yeah, so this is when I was talking about healthy boundaries, when you feel guilt or shame, or like, why did I do this? Why did I say this? It means that you were not truthful to yourself. And this is your point to grow. This is not bad. This is for you, and it's amazing, because a lot of people, they cannot even admit the truth. And you are aware, you can see where you can grow. And like self-awareness is an amazing tool for self-development. So you can start, doing something about this.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to say, I know you have a lot to cover. But I was wondering, for people listening out there, what's something that they can integrate into their daily life that can help them, with their boundaries? Is there something like really quick that, you can say, well, if you tried this and you did this, and you integrated this, maybe you'd be able to, see it better when it happens?
Yeah. Unfortunately, there is no quick way to do it, because if it were, you would do it yourself. Like, we are here, we're discussing this topic because it's not an easy topic.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been using unhealthy, impermeable, or no boundaries for many, many years in our life. Mm-hmm. And there is no quick tool to fix it, to change it.
Right.
So, the first thing, I think there are three pieces of advice that I would like to share. The first one is, when you want to react, wait. Like, just count in your head, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So do not give reaction right away. The second is, think about the situation. Whom are you talking to? Is it your spouse? Is it your coworker? Is it your boss at work? Because it depends. You don't want to give the same reaction, to all different people. And the third advice is, think, what do you want to achieve? About the outcome first. Do you want to keep your relationship? Do you want to keep your job? Do you want to be treated respectfully? And then when you take pause and think about this, then you can create your own reaction.
That spouse one's dangerous. I feel like if you wait too long, they're gonna be like, "What are you thinking?" Right?
You can just say, "I'm thinking about you, me, and our relationship."
Okay, that's pretty clever right there, right? It circles back.
If my husband will tell me that I'm thinking about you, me, and our relationship, it's like, okay, so what are you thinking about?
Yeah. That's interesting, because last night I actually had, I'm not going to name the situation, but I had an experience where I decided, and this is how I think, I'm like, this person wants me to do X, and I'm like, and I want to do Y. And I always try to make everything work, within my life and the other person. So I'm trying to, I don't know if that's flexible, right? I go, well, I could do this and I can always get to that. And I didn't feel guilty, I think, but I felt like I put myself second. And I know very quickly when I put myself second and not first. It's like, when I was younger, I was really looking for that. Like, when I say younger, I mean, high school, when I was way younger, I was really looking for that approval. So of course I'm not thinking about, I'm first where am I putting myself, right? So, last night it was like I put myself second, but it wasn't serious, right? So is there a difference between when it's serious versus when it's not serious? I mean, of course it is.
I think when in serious situation, we will react usually based on our emotions. That's the hardest thing. Like, when it's serious, the hardest thing, because when it's serious, it means that we we're hurt, or our emotions are out there, and we tend to react. So there's reactive boundaries and proactive boundaries. Reactive boundaries is when you react based on the situation, based on your emotions. If you feel sad, you can scream, you can cry, you can get angry, or some people will ignore another person, pretend that another person does not exist, ignore calls, texts, and conversations. This is all reactive boundaries, and which are kind of childish boundaries, unfortunately. And the proactive boundaries is when you choose your reaction, but it's very hard. So it's gonna take you sometimes, maybe, first it's gonna be once out of 10 times when you will be able to choose your reaction. Then it's gonna be twice, then it's gonna be 3 times. So it's gonna take some time till you will figure out how to do it.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, right, it's gonna be hard, to really be present when to make the decisions. But I think it's important when you're faced with something that you're unsure of, you want to really pause and give yourself some actual time, and not to just kind of quickly answer the other person, right?
Yes.
Because and then because it makes sense, because if you don't think, then you're gonna just continue to feel these emotional repercussions, right? Of the guilt and whatever.
Yes. Also, when you give a quick answer, a person might think that you don't care, or you're rude, or you're selfish, or something else. But when you think and take pause, a person will see that something is happening with you. And if you will start the conversation and say something like, listen, this is very important thing for me, and I would like to be honest with you. I'm sure it's gonna be much better than you will just give a quick reaction based on your emotions.
Yeah. Plus, do you think also, in a way, it shows the other person, it allows the other person to respect you more, because you're just not, in sales they call it laying down, right? You're just not going with whatever the person's saying, right?
Yes, you're not just throwing some reactions at him, or throwing your bad negative emotions, or your the feelings of pittiness, I'm a victim here. No, when you communicate with the person, then the person will most likely listen to you and appreciate you, because when you communicate and when you take pause, it's like you're respecting yourself, and you're respecting the other person, and you're respecting the relationship that you have, not just blaming or sacrificing yourself, but trying to make it more profound, more meaningful.
Mm-hmm. So I want to circle back to something. I had a really interesting idea to the 3 different types of boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really important that, if you're with somebody, if I'm going to use an example with if you're with a girlfriend or boyfriend or a spouse, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you can kind of figure it out from there with your friends and family, right?
Yes.
If I think it's really important to know what your partner's type is, right? Ground level type is, right? Whether they're and to better communicate and understand that, going forward, how to help each other be more flexible if they're not in that place of being.
Yes, because if you know that your partner, let's say your partner has impermeable boundaries, maybe for your partner it's hard to say yes. And if you know this, okay, of course you can be more patient. You can say, listen, I know that this might be a hard decision for you, but I really would like us to find the best that will work for both of us. So you can kind of talk about your partner's feelings and let her or him know that you understand what he's going through.
Right. I think this is really important too when I think about it, because if anybody ever wants to be serious in a relationship and go into the future with somebody, you're going to need to be able to talk about values. You're going to need to be able to talk about doing everything together. And if you have 2 people that are, not even just the same, right? Because it doesn't help if both of you are transparent, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because issues will arise if you're not flexible, it sounds. But it's just as important to know, so that you're prepared for when you have a serious conversation about your next move together, that you handle it appropriately and mindfully.
Yes, and you've probably heard about win-win strategy in business.
Mhm.
And in relationship, you can apply this strategy as well. So it's like, think about yourself, think about your spouse, and about the relationship. So it's you, me, and us. And if
Right.
you will forget about one element, then this system is gonna collapse.
Right.
So it's always three elements, you, me, and us. It's not only about you, because it's kind of popular to say, oh, you should protect your interest, you should put yourself first. But if we're talking about romantic relationship, then it's not you. It's not always you. It's not always your spouse. Probably us, what is the most important.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, I don't know if you have anything else to say within this time frame that we have, but I think you gave us a lot of tidbits on boundaries and where we can go from here. So I really want to thank you again for coming on. Did you
Yeah.
have did you have anything else? Do you have anything else to tell everybody?
Yes, first I would like to say thank you for inviting me, and this is my first collaborative video, and I feel really safe and trusted because you lead it well, and I were not nervous, which is good. Like, yeah. And also I would like to invite people to my channel, which is Psychology of Happiness, and I have a free webinar about the 10 reasons why people cannot say no. And this webinar is going to help you to understand yourself and understand other person, like your spouse. And when you know what's happening with the other person, when you understand where you're coming from, your childhood, and understand your parents, of course, it's going to be easier for you to be aware of your boundaries, and you can step by step create a healthy, meaningful relationships in your life.
That's awesome. Well, I'm definitely going to say yes to that. I'm not going to be impermeable.
Okay. And today we're going to have another live broadcast on my channel at 11 a.m., 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And we're going to discuss another important topic of the season, how to make your wishes, goals, and dreams come true.
Yeah, starting off the new year with a good video. I always do a video like this every year because I feel like people forget that. But no, again, I appreciate you coming on. I'm glad that this was a good experience for you. And guys, check out her channel. The links and everything are going to be down below in the description. And definitely have her on more often because I feel like this is a topic that a lot of people need to constantly think about.
That's true.
It's one of the silent killers.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you guys for tuning in.
Bye.
See you next time.